welcome to this week's tip. Now I've got a really simple but really effective tip for you today. We're going to be using watercolors to create these beautiful flowers. Now I had these in a pack that I love so much, but I've used them all up now and I wanted to recreate them and thought that's pretty easy. I reckon I can give that a go. So I've just got a very simple palette of watercolors here and I've got my water. Basically what I'm going to do, I have used quite good quality watercolor paper here rather than just your standard paper. That's pretty important because it's all about the drying process really. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use my water. This bit's a little bit tricky because you kind of have to sort of use the water and you can't really see it, but you're creating a wet edge just to stop your inks or your paint, sorry, going everywhere. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to warm up my colors. I'm just going to use sort of a little bit of green and a little bit of blue. Now I've got this little testing kind of sheet here that I have next to me that sort of helps me get my colors right before I go in to paint. Okay, so it's just a combination of this blue and this green that I'm going to go for, that I'm going to hope will give me the color that I want. And now, looking back on that kind of wet area, it'll help me border where I've done. And less is more with this. It really is. Just going to add that little bit of blue to bring in some of that colour. Now, you're probably thinking that doesn't look much at the moment, but I can assure you, as it dries, it really does come well together. Just a little bit more blue, so it gets nice and turquoisey. Now, before we move on to that brown area in the middle, we are going to have to wait until that dries. So I'm just going to set that aside there. You see this green, actually, I'll just show you how I'm going to do that. I'm going to use a sort of a finer brush for that section. There's that green leaf, and I'm just going to literally pull it out down the side. Now, the nice thing about when you're not using the water, you can get a little bit more of a sharper image and a sharper feel to it. I've used all of that watery colours in there just to create the leaves, but with the, the petals, but with the leaves I've gone a little bit wider. So there we go, just bringing that all in. Now I'm going to set that side for now to dry. I wanted to show you some others here, ones that haven't got their stem in just yet. Again, using the smaller brush, and again, not wetting my paper before I go and paint on it. I'm just getting the color density right that I want, and then copying. I might try a little bit of that stem. It looks a bit challenging for me, so I might stick with some of the browns, but just bringing out a little bit of a stem in there like so, just to give it a bit of a center to it. So it looks absolutely brilliant. I'm going to set those aside to dry, and I will begin to, that this isn't going to be quite dry, but I can still add a bit of a brown in now that you've seen what it looks like, just because I can't not have it finished. Okay, so then all I do is I get a pair of scissors and I cut around the edge until eventually you have loads of really beautiful. Here's one that I can show you how to do a stem. Again, not using too much water because I really want it to stand out. And then I'm just copying the effect that they've got on here. Look how fabulous that looks. I'm so pleased with how they've come out. And you can use these on embellishments as for your scrapbook pages, and they also look really beautiful on cards. So I'm going to let this one dry, and next week I'm going to show you how I use these beautiful watercolor flowers on a fabulous 3D layout.